Welcome to episode 94 of the Coast to Coast AFL podcast with Nick and Blaze. I'm Blaze, your host, and in this one, it's a little bit different. We're in the middle of our preseason analysis series, but something very, very big happened during Valentine's Day weekend, and that was the AFL State of Origin with the Vics up against the West Australians. I know Sarek is very, very upset about the WA people losing, but up the Vics, and we're going to talk all about it. We're also going to touch on injury lists. The full list is not updated as of yet, but we will get around to that when that officially comes out. But we'll just talk about like what we know so far. But without further ado, how are you doing, Mr. Sarek?
Not too bad, not too bad. Despite what you've been saying about the disappointing result for WA, Origin was still a fantastic event to go to. I headed there with my dad. I bought him a ticket for Christmas, so he was very appreciative to go. As you can see by my hat, I was in the WA zone, in the front little area. Everyone that went there got a free hat. The trade-off was it was alcohol-free, which they actually policed fairly well. There wasn't too many people smuggling in drinks, which I think's good. I always like a little bit of a family area. But yeah, as I said, we'll talk about specifically about the vibes and all that. But overall, yeah, despite it being a fairly disappointing result for WA, I do think that overall, like, it was a fantastic showcase for Origin. Obviously, there was couple of sour notes to happen out of it, mainly involving injury. But yeah, as I said, the crowd was loving it. There was a bit of spice with some of the fighting. I think there was some, designated nigglers in the side with Toby Green and Zach Butters starting a few little fights.
Yep.
With the WA boys. I think that may have been a deliberate ploy. Zach Butters may have lost his match fee appearance for this game. Who knows if they actually get fined for that or not. But yeah, as I said, overall, fun time. And I've had a pretty good week. Catching up on a bit of sleep. Finished all the Fringe Festival shows. So I got home at like 1 a.m. on Saturday morning. Got a bit of sleep. Went to the game on Saturday afternoon. And then, yeah, headed back home. Here, as you can tell, I am back in my humble abode.
Yes, you are. No, I'm really glad that like the whole event itself was a lot of fun. All the players, apart from the unfortunate injuries, seemed to really enjoy the whole atmosphere of it. Like the fact that the AFL has tentatively locked in a 2027 State of Origin game. Between who and who, that remains to be seen. Is good. Because I think for preseason we need more things like this, and I know we've talked about this previously. When I think the State of Origin game was first announced. But I think in the preseason, I think it really goes a long way for not just the community but for the players as well to have like a big event, where people can just put on a show, have a bit more fun, like don't have to stress too much about premiership points and things of that nature. It's just, I mean, granted, state pride is a very, very important thing as well in sports, but it's not like the thing that you're technically playing for, like in the AFL.
Yeah, exactly. And you can sort of tell with some of the players, like obviously there's a bit of differential. I think especially the teams playing in round zero, their players were a tiny bit more sharper. Case in point, some of the biggest performers, Lockie Ash, who I thought was really well. Nick Dacos. For WA, Darcy Cameron was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, it was actually pretty interesting to see because, as I said, it was still a preseason game. Like, defense was definitely on the back foot. There were a lot of targets missed, unfortunately, a lot by WA. But you know what I mean, like fundamental football. Some nice movement on the wings to get some big boy goals down in the center. It was just, yeah, as fun as he wanted. And as I said, I think both coaches, wouldn't worry too much. Again, defending sort of harder as well. When you've got a lot of people not in a system, it's a lot easier to attack, I suppose, than defend when you've got a mishmash of players. But overall, I think it was really good. And as I said, even though WA probably should have been blown out of the park, I actually think Victoria were quite dominant, especially on the stats, especially just shot converting. It's just their bad kicking sort of kept them in arm's reach of WA, and it made for an exciting game.
And one thing I do love about this kind of thing is a lot of like the mini storylines you can get, like, because there are obviously players playing for other teams out in the East who have come from clubs in the West, like, and not just and like obviously not just born and raised there. Like Jesse Hogan, he played for Fremantle. Tom Barras played for the West Coast Eagles, and now obviously like in clubs on the East Coast. So like there's all sorts of those like mini storylines as well that are just very interesting for when players kind of get to go back to their origin clubs, quote unquote.
Yeah. Or I think even the other way, like especially for a lot of the WA players, the ones that are always just playing for interstate clubs like Lawson Humphreys, Cozzy Pickett, it's their chance to actually represent WA again, like something they probably wouldn't have had done in since the under 18s competitions for a lot of them.
Yeah,
so
you've got like
and some of them might not have even played. Because I think, some of them were a few late bloomers. I know Lawson Humphreys was. So, yeah, as I said, it's pretty good. And obviously, the other way, obviously, Caleb Sarong
yes.
playing for Victoria as well. I'm sure he would have felt a bit of pride putting on the Vic V. So, yeah, as I said, that was really good to see as well.
And this was also a game where we got to see some of the new rules that were implemented as well. So being that considering I haven't actually seen the game as of yet, due to just not having any time to watch it, what are your thoughts from what you can tell of the new rules?
Well, I was actually surprised, and this might just been how the game was sort of played. The lasso rule didn't really seem to have too much dominance. I think just in general, there wasn't as many kicks going. I don't think too many players wanted to do that like pinpoint boundary kick. They were sort of looking for other options or just kicked it onto the safe side. So there was only a few lassos, so it was a bit hard to tell on that. I didn't actually see too much of the ruck rule as well. I do think it made a difference because I did notice just in general, Darcy Cameron had a fantastic game. And then obviously I was looking at YouTube, First Use, which is Jeff White's YouTube channel, had a little breakdown of the ruck battles, and yeah, it was actually interesting to see because he mentioned that Darcy Cameron, a very smart operator, he chose not to jump a few times, which made it harder for the opposition ruckman because obviously they can't cross the line and make contact. So if you're not in the air, they have literally nothing to bounce off of. Momentum just means that they cross through, and basically they had a free little tap at it. So yeah, as I said, I didn't actually see too much of the hitouts. I did think Darcy Cameron, not Darcy Cameron, what's his name?
Max Collins?
Sam Darcy.
Oh, Sam Darcy.
No,
yep.
Not Sam Darcy. Sean Darcy.
Sean Darcy.
I didn't really have much of an effect. But yeah, as I said, it's yeah. I think actually, did Sean Darcy play him? I think it's Sam Darcy.
You might be thinking. I don't know. I can't remember. I know we went over it, but again, I haven't watched the game.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Darcy Cameron was really good. Max Gorn did a few bits here and there. I think he was on a bit of a reduced minute schedule, and then as I said, English and Sherry just sort of roamed around as they pleased. I don't think they were that needed in centre bounces at times, so they just wandered. So yeah, overall, I don't. It's very hard to tell. Obviously, a lot of the clearance work as well was very loose. A lot of players got a fast break. I don't think anyone was particularly manning all that much in the clearances, or they were positioning more for offensively minded than defensively minded. You had a lot of offensively based midfielders like Warner, Bolton, Butters, no, maybe not Bontempelli. Rao played a bit more offensively than I thought. So, yeah, so it was pretty interesting. Yeah, and I don't think there's any other rule changes, is there? It was just the rucking and the lasso?
Rucking last touch was the other big rule.
Yeah, that's lassie.
Yeah.
That's what I call it.
Okay. And then yeah, no, I think that's kind of it. They were kind of the two main ones. Obviously, the ruck one was the one that I was kind of more interested in because I'm a big fan of the
Yeah.
ruck battles. Um, what are your thoughts on like medal distribution with Lockie Ash and Jesse Hogan winning the
Yeah.
respective medals?
It's weird. I mean, Jesse Hogan was by far and away. He kept us in the game. He had some brilliant marking, especially in that. I think it was the third quarter, or maybe it was early in the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, almost single-handedly got us back into the game. A lot of the other tolls were sort of on more limited minutes. I know Georgiadis sort of started the game, but went to the bench. Luke Jackson still played a bit. I had a bit of cameo, but he was roaming around a bit more. And Jake Waterman was fantastic. It was definitely Jesse's night overall. Fantastic game by him. Definitely one of the best WA boys. I do think Lawson Humphreys started off a bit slow, had a few errors, but then became really good with his distribution. Jordan Clark was pretty good. Bradley Hill was probably one of our best wingers, an area that we really struggled with. And yeah, Patrick Cripps provided a lot of pressure. I don't think he was like one of the best players, but he was definitely providing a bit more grit than other players in the contest. As for the Victorians, obviously Nick Dacos getting 38 possessions and not winning the medals is funny.
I hope it
It
continues
sort of
to be a
makes.
thing where he just doesn't win them.
I mean, he deserves
He
props.
does deserve props.
But yeah, Lockie Ash did have a really good game. Like you could tell his burst off halfback, like WA weren't really prepared for, and it did break the game open a lot. But you know, as I said, did he deserve the medal over 38 possession performance? Really good. I don't really know, and honestly, I don't really care that much. I mean, yeah, it's a bit disappointing if you're Nick Dacos, but you know what I mean. It's like you're a really good player in a side that's still got a bit in them. They'll find a way. But you know, as I said, Lockie Ash also leading Lockie Ash had as many intercept possessions as Tom Barras as well, which I think goes a long way into why he won. 7 score involvements as well, pretty high from the half-back line. So, yeah, I can't really argue with it. The only thing that they really did botch, um, just in general, was actually more post-game,
Mm-hmm.
where they Optus Stadium. It's still a really good stadium, but it's you want to get to the trains quick if you're leaving. So most people shuffle out fairly quickly. And unfortunately, they didn't really announce that there was going to be a bit of fireworks after the show. So most people were in the train carriages when they set off the fireworks that they probably paid a tiny bit of coin for. So, I know they probably were like, oh, we'll do the medal presentations and then we'll do that. But I think a few people would have stayed on the ground a bit longer because it was really just looked like the kids that were wanting to stay afterwards, which is still good. But yeah, as I said, I reckon if they try to keep a bit more people on the ground, it would have actually split, the travellers going home. It's one of the things where the transport to Optus Stadium is still good. But yeah, as I said, it's, packed trains on the way home. But yeah, as I said, yeah, overall, still fantastic experience.
No, that's good. No, I'm really glad that like it was again, as I kind of said before, like it's an overall a really good experience. I'm glad the AFL has
Mm,
confirmed that they want to do more of it. Um, and yeah, I hope that we get to do more preseason kind of things like this because it's really good. One again for just for the
mm,
physical fitness of the players. It kind of just as long as we want to avoid injuries, it allows them to
mm,
ensure that they are actually fit for the AFL season going forward. Obviously, most of them would be, but some can be still a little rusty when it comes to like the first couple of rounds. It's kind of just normal. But like preseason game, like a high intensity preseason game like
mm,
this, is perfect for players' fitness. Then obviously you've got the actual preseason games where players don't really put as much effort into, even though they should.
mm,
Um, but I think like something like this is so much better just for the overall community and for the players themselves. And I'm
mm.
really glad that the AFL wants to do more.
I think the question is that not many people have talked about because, again, last year, absolutely fantastic. They said they were going to bring it back. Indigenous All-Stars game. Where does that fit now in the mix? Is it one of those things where do you think people are willing to have this rotate with the Indigenous All-Stars games? Go Indigenous All-Stars Origin, Indigenous All-Stars
I
Origin, or do you
think
think the thirst for Origin just replaces it?
I think we could do maybe do Indigenous All Stars every 3 years, and that way it allows for a better system rotation of new and upcoming Indigenous players
Yeah.
as well as the veterans. So you could do like I don't know if obviously like it's going to be State of Origin every year or whatever, but
Hmm.
like you could do State of Origin this year, State of Origin next year, Indigenous All Stars,
Yeah.
State of Origin, um,
Because it
IAA.
would make sense, even though, arguably, obviously Victoria's always got to be a part of it, because as I said, even I'll admit it's the home of football talent, at the very least. I do think WA is a mad supporting state. There's a lot of good football that goes along here, but, Victoria is just where it's all sort of set up. So I could definitely see a WA and Adelaide rotation for a couple of years. If there is a really good period of New South Wales or Queensland football, I think they deserve a chance. But yeah, it makes sense for a couple of teams to have a go. And then yeah, Indigenous All Stars game. I think that actually makes a lot of sense. Because I say I do hope they keep on pushing it because I do actually think that though I do think like it was a good event, I do think some of the lead up, I think the lead up for this was a lot better than the Indigenous All Stars game. Um, and obviously there's a bit more to work with here. Obviously, historic rivalry,
Mm-hmm.
a lot more obvious storylines. Obviously, Indigenous All Stars was sort of more a friendly affair, really. But yeah, as I said, I think that I'd still like to see it supported, and not just overlooked, because it would be easy to just focus on this as the main draw, because obviously this pretty much sold out. Was the Indigenous was I think more towards 30,000 by memory.
I cannot recall what the crowd attendance was
Yeah,
for the All Stars, but yeah, I know it was less
that was a
than what
while
this
ago.
was. But no, yeah, like, and even if these things do stay in Perth, even if it's the Vics versus South Australians and that gets moved to Adelaide Oval, or
Mhm.
even if it's WA versus South Australia and that gets played at
Yeah.
Adelaide Oval or something like that. Like, I think this is a good event to rotate around.
Hmm.
It's understandable if the Indigenous All Stars one stays in WA because you have more Indigenous talent coming out of WA more so than any other state.
Hmm.
So that makes sense. But if something like this like
Yeah.
rotates around to different locations, even if Queensland, New South Wales, um, have a moment where they have some insane talent coming out of their state, or
Yeah.
whatever, or like players that
And
play their first
technically,
first kind of
yeah.
underage games, I guess, in either of
Hmm.
those states, because that's where I think a couple of players that were playing for WA, they weren't actually from WA, but they played their first like state league games, for WA,
Yeah.
and that's what they classify it as. So even if there are
Yeah.
players like that and they've come from Queensland or New South Wales, like there's definitely already a system in place to where we can have these types of games in those regions.
Yeah, and it's definitely like a few of them. Like it was really good to see their original um, you know, uh growing up areas that they growing up, you know what I mean. Their hometown clubs represented on their introductions. As I said, it's funny, you had who was it? I think Darcy Cameron was from Rockingham or something. It was just all these interesting players that you think, oh, like I didn't know that they were as regional or out the way. Like sometimes when you see them, they've come from a waffle club, uh, and that doesn't really tell you too much about where they came from. So, I said overall, it was just good to see the different backgrounds of where the players came from, especially if you're not that invested in the draft like me. So, yeah, I thought that was a very nice touch as well.
That's good. I think that's very, very good. Is
Yeah,
there any
I was
other? Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I was gonna like do a last little touch on the crowd because I think that's worth its own little discussion because it was funny. Um, there was a lot of heat, and a lot of it did came from the WA crowds. And I think this is where, I think this is a bit special, this Origin game, because, I mean, as Blazy sort of knows by my joking, like, Western Australians do tend to have more, I wouldn't say vitriol towards the Victorians, or just in general, but man, like, it's probably the most bitter relationship of all the states, I would say, if you put them up head to head. And it did make for a few funny moments, because one, they did actually boo what's his name? Caleb Sarong when he came out. I was a bit
Wow.
surprised about, like, not too badly, but there was a few bees murmuring around and all that sort of stuff. A lot of players did get a bit from the Victorians. I think Nick Dacos obviously got it the worst.
As is standard.
Obviously, yeah, Bailey Smith got a lot.
Yep.
Surprisingly, Max Gorn still got a fair few cheers. So everyone just sort of loves Maxi. Bontempelli was another one where people just, can't really hate them. A few players got a bit of mixed reaction. Dangerfield was like the most mix between clapping and booing. You know what I mean? Like, he had the most of both, probably. But yeah, as I said, it was sort of funny, because, yeah, I think the WA fans, and I will say it was a lot from what I was noticing, West Coast fans were getting a bit conspiratorial towards the umpires, like in the good old days of, like, hashtag Vic Bias. I joke about it, but there are a fair few percentage of West Australians fans that do believe that there is a conspiracy to prop up Vic football over WA, in the level that includes, conspiring the umpires against them. And, when you got West Coast fans thinking that the umpiring are treating the game like they would West Coast, who already normally have a favourable run with the umpires, especially in their heydays at Optus Stadium / Subiaco Oval back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
It is funny to get that, because, yeah, as I said, you could definitely tell the difference between, either Fremantle or non West Coast fans versus West Coast fans. Yeah, there was a moment too when Sam Darcy was shooting for goal, and someone was just like shouted out, you just said, "Oh, you're not even that good looking," and I'm all for shouting things at the crowd as long as it's like non-personal. But I can't stand for that. You know what I mean? Like, Sam Darcy, he may be a Victorian, but he doesn't deserve to have confidence on his look. So I just shouted out that he's handsome in my eyes. A few people laughed, and I hope Sam Darcy takes that to heart, because you know what? You may be a stinky Vic, but you can't help that. And yeah, as I said, I hope that everyone just sort of had a fun time on field, because I don't think anyone was taking the crowd all that seriously.
No, I don't think so.
I think most of them were just having a really good time, playing with friends, a few moments, heated moments. I don't even think anyone that like actually messed around with Zach Butters even really cared all that much. I do think that I think a few players just have a bit of fun having those little things. I did notice that a few times Jack Gunston was just standing away from it, because he was just like, "Yeah, I'm too old for this. I can't be bothered."
He did a
This
lot.
isn't. This
He did a
isn't.
lot in 2025. He doesn't need to do too much right now.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a few players took it a bit easier than others. I think most people like tried to a relative degree, but yeah, as I said, overall, I think it was a huge success. I'd love to go to another one, and yeah, as I said, it was a bit disappointing that the Vics won, but I do think that they were overall the more comprehensive side. Like, their ball movement was pretty much uncontested by West Australian. WA really didn't have much defensive setup at all. Roy Look had a very hard night. As I said, the rebounders did okay, like Jordan Clark and all that, but yeah, I do think that WA were probably lacking a key defender. Because I said Tom Barras. Broad did okay, actually, too. I think that, yeah, as I said, it was sort of hard with the rotation of tolls. And obviously, small storyline, just, he wasn't named in the original side, and then I was about to say Max King. What's the other one's name?
Ben King.
Ben King. Ben King kicks 4 goals, 1, and was very clutch. Only 10 disposals, but when half of them are score, you have had a pretty good night. So yeah, congratulations for him, and coming in, filling the role that Jeremy Cameron was meant to have done.
Yep.
I don't think really many people expected Cameron to play, considering that he did break his arm last year, but yeah, it was a bit of a shame not to see him nonetheless.
I'm really glad that all 18 clubs were represented in this game at the very least. I think that was a really good distribution
Yeah.
of talent. My boy Nathan Broad being under obviously the WA. I'm really glad that he had a good game. And then that all of the other 18 clubs got to have some sort of representation out there, and all of them for the most part had really good games.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, I mean, there were a few that had quiet games, but as I said, like in preseason, like clubs are at so different levels of training and all that. That is very hard to bring a team together. So, as I said, maybe that's a bit of a cop out. Like maybe he was like, oh, this isn't proper state of origin, yada yada yada. Otherwise, the WA would have win. But like, I do think that Victoria on paper, like a really solid team to beat. And, I think having it in the preseason sort of like levels that out a bit, because you know what I mean? Like everyone's a bit rusty, but there's still a bit of heat, still a bit of passion, but it's still played like a preseason game. So, unfortunately, there were like a couple of minor injuries. Obviously, Wiedering going down wasn't good optics, but thankfully he avoided any major concerns. And there was a couple of hamstrings. Archie seems to have gotten the worst of it, but Mitch Georgiadis also apparently came back a bit stiff afterwards, so hopefully they'll get back on the park sooner rather than later.
Yeah, fingers crossed that the injury was, especially to Wiedering, is recoverable quickly, because Carlton desperately need him.
They can't lose a key back.
They can
No
they can't just lose him. Like he has been that important to their defense just in general. So hopefully he'll be able to recover fairly quickly and have a decent season coming up. But speaking of injuries, that's actually where we're going to go to next. We don't have a full list of the injuries across all clubs. That has not been updated yet. That won't be updated, I'd say, probably for at least another week until when the actual preseason starts.
Normally the week before season, yeah.
Yeah, it'll either be before preseason starts or it'll be after, before the actual season starts. But we have an article that was updated or was published 2 days ago as we're recording this. And has been updated, I assume, recently, about some of the more major injuries across all 18 clubs. We will start with Adelaide, and obviously the big one being Mark Keane going down with a broken ankle during training. Obviously, Dan Curtin is still going to miss a couple months with his dislocated knee. Sid Draper is taking it easy, but should be here or there involved. He's just coming off of some groin soreness. Mitch Hinge is on some light duties at the moment due to a back complaint, and Isaac Rankin is still obviously unavailable for suspension. And Cal Archie did suffer a hamstring strain during the Origin game, but should be okay to come in at round 1.
Yeah, and obviously Adelaide have the opening round bye, but it does make it a bit interesting because although a couple of these players, it's like, oh, they're only missing out a couple of weeks. Their first 2 matches are Collingwood at the MCG before taking the Western Bulldogs at home. So, yeah, it might be a bit of a tough start for them. Obviously, Keane is the biggest one. It does change their defensive structures. They may not be able to go as intercept heavy as they were last year. Dan Curtin, it's a bit of... I think both Curtin and Archie will be really bad because that takes a lot of the wing movement. But if they get one back, I think it will sort of make up for a little bit. And obviously, Isaac Rankin's still got one more game to sit out. So, it might be a bit of a slowish start. I think people are expecting Adelaide to drop a few more games this year. But overall, it's not... As I said, Keane is probably the biggest problem, really.
We talked about it at the end of last season, that like how much of a difference Keane made alongside that back line in terms of like how Adelaide was able to kind of bounce back from like the season that they had prior, where they just weren't, they kind of slipped out of 8 contention. But then like with Keane and the other backs kind of solidifying their structure Like they had some fantastic games, and like without, I think Keane is probably the biggest part of that back three. So losing him is
Yeah,
definitely going to make a big amount of difference.
because as I said, it's just one of those things where Jordan Butts, he's a good fringe player, but Keane, Worrell, and oh, here's the other one. I've forgotten his name.
I
Played a bit at the end of last year.
also forgotten,
But
but yeah,
yeah, yeah. As I said, their top three has a bit of a gap between the next best. So, um, moving on to Brisbane now. Sam Draper, their new recruit from Essendon, is sidelined with a bit of stress factor in his foot. We don't really know how long, but it's at least pretty much confirmed that the opening game against the Bulldogs is ruled out for him. Defender Jack Payne, is recovering from a ruptured patella. Hopefully, he's available in round 6, but that will make their defense a little bit vulnerable. While Eric Hipwood is obviously rehabilitating for his ruptured ACL, and will be more towards the back end of the season. In terms of players that have had a bit of work, Josh Dunkley, Jared Berry, and Jasper Fletcher all had shoulder surgery, but are training in full. And Tom Dodie is sort of recovering from his knee and wrist problems that plagued last season, and they expect him to be back for round 0, sorry.
round 0,
they're
round 1,
playing the Bulldogs.
somewhere around there.
Yeah. So yeah, they have a round 2 bye. So
I don't think,
yeah,
I don't think they'll be missing all that much. Come round 0, I guess Draper. Not, I would say Draper not really because of the fact that they've still got Darcy Fort, who obviously had a fantastic season when he became
that he can play on his own.
And when he stepped in, when the big O kind of had fallen out of favor and then led to his eventual retirement. Darcy Fort was fantastic. So I assume he'll start off just fine. Jack Payne will definitely be a big loss in their defense, but I think they've got they have a kid coming up that looks to be touted as a really good defender. I can't remember the name of him right now, but they'll have someone slot in there to be able to kind of fit in for the time being. Obviously, Hipwood has been in and out of the side for a while, mostly playing a quieter role nowadays rather than being a damaging forward. So that should be okay. And then obviously the others, since they're back to full training, they should be okay to play in the preseason games, which is good. Oh, and as a side note, obviously we did our Brisbane preseason analysis episode a while back now. Brisbane have named new captains since Lachie Neale stepped down, and Josh Dunkley is one of them, which is very, very exciting.
Yeah. It was triple captain, wasn't it? It was Dunkley, Andrews, and McCluggage?
Yes, McCluggage is the third.
I think.
Which I think is really interesting. It's 3 co-captains, and 2 of them are midfielders.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a club with 3 official captains. They might not have vice captains, so maybe it's just like, well, they've just named 3 captains, but it's just you don't have a vice captain, you have a leadership group. I don't know.
That's probably the way that they see it, I would assume.
Yeah, as I said, a bit funny, but as I said, I think if you're going to doubt Brisbane's system after 2 premierships in a row, well, you're probably a bit of a contrarian there.
Just a bit.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, let's jump over now.
Move on
to Carlton, yes. And obviously the big one being Jacob Wiedering via the State of Origin game. So he'll be out for a while. Well, actually, they say he's got a good chance because apparently he avoided
any major damage.
Yeah.
Sorry, still fractured his rib.
Oh yeah,
would hurt.
Still gonna.
I wouldn't give him a hug.
It's still gonna take a while to recover. But if he makes it onto opening round, let's go. That's what we want, right? Jesse Motlop unfortunately ruptured his ACL during training. Harry O'Farrell is still on the sidelines as well with a similar knee injury. Blake Acres dislocated his shoulder, but should be available for opening round, whilst Nick Haynes and Matt Cottrell have undergone some tests and stuff to be assessed when the bye comes around in round 2, following obviously them playing opening round. Nick Newman is set to return after a patella injury, but that probably won't be till like round 3, round 4, round 5, that sort of area. And Brody Kemp will hopefully be coming back somewhere in the early season from a ruptured Achilles. And the last one being Matt Carroll, sustained a hamstring injury during an intra-club match, but should hopefully be okay to come in during opening round.
Yeah, so unfortunately, just a smattering of injuries. Again, if Jacob Wiedering does miss opening round, as well as Harry O'Farrell, who would probably be more towards rounds 10 onwards, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a hard one for Carlton to defend. They do have Sydney and Richmond as the opening 2 games, and then, as I said, they get maybe Haynes and Cottrell back. So.
Yes.
Yeah, their depth will be tested. It's probably worth knowing for tipping that, yeah, Carlton might take a little while to get going, but who knows? They're wanting placing kids anyway, so they might find someone else as well.
Yeah, this would be a good opportunity for some of the newer recruits to come in over the past few years that they've brought on and maybe just haven't had enough time to get a chance at a game.
Yeah.
All right, Collingwood time.
Yeah, so Captain Darcy Moore is apparently racing against the clock for the club season opener against St Kilda, coming off a calf injury, while apparently Ben McCreary is striving to be fit for the start of this campaign. Several Magpies have dealt with injuries but are likely to be available, including Jeremy Howard, Dan McStay, Isaac Quainer, and Dan Houston, whereas Bobby Hill is on extended leave for personal reasons.
Yes.
So, not too terrible, but it is concerning how many forward and back players have had key injuries, because their forward line, bit of question marks about that. We talked about that in our preseason analysis, and they're relying on their back line to keep them in games, despite them being a bit older than they would probably like, really. So, yeah, Collingwood, you'd expect them to be fine enough, but yeah, it might take them a little while to get going. I'll see what their first bit of the schedule is. They get St Kilda to start off that opening round game that shouldn't exist.
I agree.
Then they get Adelaide, the Giants, Brisbane, and the Dockers. So it might be a tough start to the season for them.
It is a tough start.
You know, so you know, we'll wait and see. But yeah, as I said, overall, you'd still probably get a measure of where Collingwood's at from the players that they're able to bring on the park. I don't think it's as bad. It just might be a bit slow to get going.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like an 0-5 kind of loss to start the season. But like there definitely could be low scoring kind of games rather than some more high scoring affairs.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to have to really grit and grind out a few of these games.
All right, now for one of the bigger ones who are thankfully looking a little bit healthier than they did last season, and that is the Bombers.
Only by comparison.
Just only by like a slim comparison. The big one is obviously Nick Martin out with another big knee injury for the entirety of 2026, which sucks because he's so good. Nick Bryan, Tom Edwards, and young defender Lewis Hayes will be eyeing returns early in the season after their ACL injuries. Jordan Ridley and Archie Perkins have had interrupted preseasons, so they'll be touch and go as to whether they play in the early season. Jack Caldwell had a knee concern earlier this month, but seems to be okay so far. Isaac Keiko is set to miss at least one or possibly both of the preseason games, touch and go if he plays first couple of rounds after straining his hamstring. Irishman Cillian Burke also suffered a hamstring injury in January, but as far as I'm aware, still looks to be eyeing off early rounds. And number 9 draft pick Sullivan Roby had his training load scaled down after the Bombers found signs of back stress, but has recently resumed training. So fingers crossed he'll be able to have a debut in the early season.
Yeah, so pretty much all of this, like Essendon are not putting a recognised ruckman in the ruck for the first bit of the season, which will be interesting. You know, as I said, and then just a mix of players. I think Ridley is obviously the biggest concern because he's probably one of the more exciting defenders in that pretty lackluster back six. Obviously, Isaac Keiko, he had such an influence in his first year. He did pretty well considering the lack of supply. So hopefully, as I said, the interrupted preseason doesn't bother him too much. But yeah, as I said, all things considered, I think it's just, yeah, only a few of these tend to be a bit longer terms. I think some of these, I think Brian will take probably at least a month or two, for all I've heard. I'm not sure about Hayes and Edwards. So, yeah, as I said, it's just, yeah, as I said, Essendon, they've done pretty good. They've given them a soft-ish start to the year. Starts off hard with Hawthorn, then you get Port Adelaide, North, Western Bulldogs, which is a bit harder, and then Melbourne. So, there's still chances for them. So yeah, it's just wait and see. Hopefully they stay healthy, because as I said, last year was not a funny joke, but a joke nevertheless.
Yeah, it was really really sad to kind of see it all crumble so quickly. But hopefully some good recoveries for the players that are looking to come back. Hopefully most of the list stays healthy. Yeah, Nick Martin is still going to be the one that's going to be missed the most, because he just was so good in
That
2024.
forward line connection, midfield pill getting, yeah.
All right, now over to Fremantle, which thankfully fairly healthy.
Yeah, Sean Darcy is forever, skirting around the injury list. I think that, I mean, he will probably take reduced minutes anyway in the match simulations, but I think, yeah, as I said, it might be a slow start for him. Off forgotten forward Sam Sturts seems to be working back from an ACL injury sustained in July. So again, he might be on the fringes, but it will be handy to have him as an option later in the year. Whereas that Alex Pearce is sort of being managed because of some of the stress-related issues that he had in 2025. And a few rookies like Aidan Riddell has been sidelined for a few weeks with ankle injuries. And Cooper Simpson, young halfbacker, made a couple of games last year, is managing a minor hip issue. So really not too much to worry about, which is good, because Fremantle have a mixed bag of a start. A couple of easier opponents, but start their game off with one of the harder trips, which is the trip to GHMBA Stadium.
Yeah, this is always the hardest trip to go, wherever you're from, just because it's Geelong. So Jeremy Cameron, obviously one of the bigger ones. No certainty to play an opening round after he suffered a quad strain at training, but obviously he's only just recently returned to full contact training after his broken arm in the grand final. Again, like, we already know the story of that. It's why he couldn't play in the Origin game, obviously. Tyson Stengel has been away from the club for personal issues and won't be rushed back into full training, so he might not play some games until later in the early season. Toby Conway was sidelined for most of 2025 with foot problems and is still going to take a bit of time before he's on the park. Mark Blitzars and Jack Martin have both suffered minor ankle issues, but neither of the injuries are serious, so they should be fine to play preseason, hopefully, and opening rounds. And Keaton Matafai-Forbes and Harley Barker, more newer recruits to the club, are also on modified programs at the moment for foot and knee-related injuries.
Yeah, so as I said, I think the biggest thing is obviously that Jeremy Cameron injury, because Geelong's forward line is potent, but they definitely still run through the general. So, as I said, they've got a tough schedule to start with. Pretty much all possible top four candidates in Suns, Fremantle, Adelaide, and Hawthorn to start the year. So they might drop a few earlier games, even though I do expect them to be a force this year. But on the flip side, if they do manage to get 3-1 in that period, it might then set them up for a really good season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very interesting to see how they run with a modified forward line without Jezza up there. But I think with a proper full season under Shannon Neal, now, and especially he has a lot of experience even without Jeremy Cameron, because Jezza did miss a couple of games last season, only one or two, but it was still kind of enough. I think they'll be okay. Like, they've got such a talent of a forward line that I think they should be fine regardless, really.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
All right. Moving on to the Gold Coast. Oops, sorry, I skipped past them. So apparently they're in really good shape. Charlie Ballard's recovering from an ACL, so he might be looking to get. Oh, sorry, no, they're saying he'll miss opening round, but will be available shortly after. Apparently, Matt Rowell suffered a bit of an injury, finger injury in Origin, but he should be fine, really. A couple of draftees apparently got a bit of concern. First one being Bo Adenosol. He suffered a high-grade hamstring injury, so probably looking to miss a month or so, first couple of games of the seasons. And Jai Murray, a femoral stress reaction. Okay, both are expected to be back around 4 to 6 weeks into the season. Jai Farah is dealing with a knee knock, should only miss a week or two, where Elliot Himmelberg is now 9 months into his rehab for his ACL and is hoping for a mid-season return. He was brought in last year just as a depth option. So again, they'll miss having him in terms of their depth, but it shouldn't be a best 23 issue for those, except maybe Jai Farah, who did. No, sorry, was it Farah who came in last year? I can't remember.
Yeah, Farah played
One
a
of
couple
them
games
did
last
pretty
year.
well. Yeah.
You are correct in that
So
regard.
yeah, I don't think this will be a huge problem. Suns' early schedule, apart from the opening round game against Geelong, is fairly easy because after that they have West Coast, Richmond, Melbourne, and Sydney, and Essendon as well. So, I don't think any of those injuries will inhibit too much their ability to get off to a good start.
No, I think they'll manage just fine. Again, if Maral will be back like with no issues, finger injuries are very, very minor normally, so it should recover from that in no time. It'll be really good to see Charlie Ballard back on the park. If his recovery is going really well. Again, we know how much of a talent he is, but I'm sure they don't really want to rush him back, considering how bad the ACL was when he did it. But yeah, they shouldn't be missing too much in the early season, and they should look pretty good, I think.
Now, going to the opposite side of things, do you want to run down against the probably most prevalent preseason news?
The reason why this article has been updated is because of the Giants. Because they have dealt with a lot in the past couple of days, so I'm going to run through all of it. Tom Green, ACL, out for the season. Toby Bedford, about 6 weeks, hamstring injury. Sam Taylor, minor hamstring injury in the Origin game, and will probably miss a few weeks. Finn Callahan, also missing a few weeks due to a minor hip flexor issue. Darcy Jones will miss a lot after rupturing his ACL last year. Josh Kelly will be sidelined for possibly the entire year due to hip surgery. Lee Kalia is going to be missing a couple of games due to a groin issue. High-profile recruit Clayton Oliver had a minor calf strain over the summer. Will be playing managed minutes in the practice matches, but should be okay. And Brent Daniels is some positive news. Brent Daniels is on track to come back for the opening round.
Yeah, but this is pretty huge because the Giants as well also have a tough schedule to start the year, playing Hawthorn, Western Bulldogs, who absolutely thrashed them both times last year, St Kilda, who, might be on the up, and Collingwood. So, yeah, it's going to be tough to get to round 4 with a positive win record for them. It will test their depth, which we already think's a bit flaky, but, as I said, sometimes through the tougher situations, really good teams shine. So I think this is a good litmus test for them. But I do think that's almost impossible for them to, go unscathed in their win-loss record with the amount of injuries and changes in system that these injuries will require.
Yeah, there's going to have to be a lot of magnet shuffling for this team to kind of have a decent structure coming into the season. Thankfully, their forward line doesn't look to be too bad. It seems to be pretty stable at the moment. But yeah, the big issues are currently in the midfield because of so many injuries. And that's where the depth will be tested the most.
Yeah. And now talking about the other big midfield injury. For Hawthorn, it is the repeat offender, Will Day, dislocating his shoulder in a preseason hit-out. He underwent surgery and is not expected back on the park till round 14, so a good chunk of the season for him. Sicily is working his way from shoulder and hip problems that affected him in 2025. I don't think he missed that much time, but he definitely was suffering a bit on the park. And Finn McGuinness returned full training after suffering a lacerated kidney against Port Adelaide in July. I forgot about that, but yeah, that was a pretty nasty one. And Jack Ginnivan, who broke his finger apparently during last week's match simulation, is expected to be fit for opening round. So sort of not much preseason for the cheeky young lad, but yeah, as I said, not apparently expected to miss many games,
Well,
as Hawthorn
it
have.
looks like Hawthorn's structure is just basically not going to change, really. Provided
Yeah, not really.
Sicily will make it on the park, then there's
Well,
literally
even then,
nothing
they've
is
got
going to
enough
change bar
backs.
Ginnivan.
Yeah. Like, they've got enough backs to cover it anyway. So, as I said, which is good because they open with the Giants, then go to Essendon, which is a bit of relief. Sydney, again, middle of the road. But then Geelong and Western Bulldogs both at... oh, sorry. First one's at home, second one's at Adelaide Oval.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, because
yeah,
gather round. That's right.
gather round.
Gather
Yeah, so,
round.
yeah.
And then, jumping over to another team with a lot of question marks. We're at the Demons, and if you listen to our preseason analysis episode that released only a couple days ago, but there is a lot going on for this team, and it's only going to get worse with these injuries. So Jack Viney is set to miss most of the first season with an Achilles injury. Jai Cully is out for a month, despite performing really well during the summer with an arm injury. Max Gawn has a finger fracture from the Origin game, but should be fine. Jake Bowie will miss several months as he recovers from a Liz Frank fracture in his foot. Harry Sharp, hamstring, and draftee Tom Matthews with a groin have returned to match sim training, so are hopefully on the park for early stages of the season. While Shane McAdam with an Achilles, Jack Henderson with back/sacrum. I don't know what that is. I'll be honest.
Sacrum.
Yeah.
It's lower back.
Lower back. Okay.
Just above the coccyx.
Tom Campbell with neck and Andy Moniz Wakefield with a knee are all in various stages of recovery. Some might be back for early stages, some be ready for later in the season. And then Christian Salem has been restricted to running laps, but there's no concerns with his fitness according to the club, which was said back in January. However, that may have changed, and they just haven't put out a statement on it. Father-son tall Kalani White has returned to Queensland to spend time with family as he recovers from a bout of glandular fever. So he should be fine once he comes back from Queensland. But otherwise, yeah, the Demons are not looking great.
Yeah, well, to be fair, the Shane McAdams to Wakefield ones were more players from last year who was coming back. So they were already off anyway. But yeah, as I said, they need Viney. They still need that structure in the midfield. Otherwise, they just go a bit too young. Jack Bowie is another one there. One of their younger defenders that they probably want on the park more than not, but might take a while to come back into the side. So, yeah, as I said, Melbourne are going to be experimenting anyway, but it will make them a bit rough for them. Sorry, I forgot to load up their opening schedule. They start off with the bye. But have St Kilda, Fremantle, Carlton, Suns, and Essendon to start the first 5 rounds. So it's not too bad.
No, it sounds like a very, very balanced,
like a 2 or 3 fixture, really.
Yeah. All right, let's jump over now to North Melbourne.
Yeah, so the biggest one is obviously the young son of a gun, I should say, Jackson Archer. Ruled out for 2026 with an ACL injury. And another big one is the often injured George Wardlaw, suffering another hamstring injury early in the month. Apparently he's in selection for round 1, but again, it's not really good news for him getting back into the swing of things.
Mm-hmm.
Luke McDonald is wearing a splint, but is also available for the selection and start of the season with their backline that really want him to be. While recruit Charlie Spargo is working towards unrestricted training by the end of the month. Told duo Aidan Core and Callum Coleman-Jones have both been battling calf injuries the preseason, while draftee Blake Thregold underwent shoulder surgery last Tuesday to repair a Liz Frank injury. Probably won't see him this season, it sounds like.
So injury-wise, this team actually isn't too bad. But this team has plenty of other issues, though.
Yeah, but they've been served a fairly soft schedule for the start of the season. They only really have the Lions in round 5. That's a really big contender, but otherwise they have Port, West Coast, Essendon, and Carlton.
Yeah.
To deal with at the start, which is, should get them off to an okay.
If you saw our preseason analysis episode on the Roos on last Sunday, For us, that's 2 days ago as we're recording this, but then you'll know that we struggled to find a lot of positives for this team. But the fact that their injury list actually is quite small in terms of like notable players, I think it's a good thing.
Hmm.
I think that's actually a solid positive.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I'll take this one
Yeah,
because
we'll
it's Port
alternate on this
Adelaide.
one.
Yeah. So Jason Horne-Francis is the big watch, and it's someone I'll be watching because, man, he was by far our most cleanest midfielder last year. Had foot surgery in November, copped a bit of a shoulder knock in early February, so he'll have a very limited preseason, but he'll be in and around round one. Sampa Pepper, he's undergoing knee arthroscopy. But yeah, as I said, apparently he is still going to head back to his normal ACL recovery time, which will probably be, the first third of the season to mid. Mitch Georgiadis is assessed after his hamstring awareness, but I don't think it's said to be too big a deal. Whereas Ivan Soldo is fully ruled out for his ACL tear, and Tom Cochrane won't be available for the first 2 months with a high-grade hamstring injury.
Not the worst, but I think the players that you're missing because of injury have a bigger impact, especially Horn Francis.
Yeah, Sam Pepper is probably a more efficient Darcy Byrne-Jones.
Yeah.
So, it's we're really lacking in that forward line area. So having him missing is a bit of a shame. But again, Port have an okay start to the season, starting with North, going to Essendon, then to West Coast, then to Richmond, and finishing off with St Kilda. So it's not bad. Like they could start with at least, I mean, theoretically, if they're going to be a middle of the pack team, it could be a 4-1 record, playing off what should be around most of the bottom four teams in the first 5 weeks. So can't complain there.
No, that's not. It's realistically, it's not actually that bad at all. Provided Georgiadis should be alright. Coming out of the Origin game, you should have some decent structure at least to contend with the earlier rounds of the season.
Yeah, it's just if we lose some of those games, I'll probably be crying.
Yeah.
In the first few episodes of the Coast to Coast podcast.
All right, now on to Richmond. We have a couple, but thankfully they're not all too bad. Josh Smiley, we're still waiting on his debut as he is currently dealing with quad injuries, whilst Judson Clark, good old Juddy, is heading overseas to help with his recovery from his second ACL, from his just ACL rupture in general. Sam Lawler has been training the house down and looks fantastic from what we've seen. That he should be fit to face Carlton in round one. Nick Vlauston has no certain date of whether he'll be back for round one, because he's dealing with an ankle fracture. Same with Dion Prestia, who currently isn't going to be playing any of the practice games after straining a hamstring yet again.
We'll wrap the meatball.
Yeah, we need to wrap him in a lot of spaghetti, honestly. Tom Sims is yet to resume running after a foot injury, while Sam Banks is currently dealing with foot stress fracture. Oh, not a fracture, just foot stress, sorry. And is slowly rejoining match sim sessions, so hopefully he'll be on the park in the earlier rounds. Veterans Tom Lynch, Nathan Broad, and Toby Nankervis are all building towards planned round one appearances, and they're hoping to play against Melbourne in the preseason games.
Yeah, and as I said, it's a bit of a mixed bag, but Richmond also have a very mixed bag starting lineup. Face Carlton initially, they'll probably be their best chance for a win early on. Then get Gold Coast, Fremantle, a bit more even with Port Adelaide, and then GWS at the Barossa Park. So yeah, as I said, it might be a bit tough, but at the same time, if they are going to have injuries early, at least their schedule opens up midway through the season. So it might be they're just getting players back when they can actually win a few more games.
Yeah, like most of the injuries that we suffered during the 2025 season are in full training. I talked about this in our preseason analysis episode, which will have gone up 2 days ago when this goes up. So I had to remember what our upload schedule is. We're recording these in advance.
Yeah.
So, and like I kind of talked about the fact that most of our injured players there are on the park, which is really, really good. Especially like McKelty Lafau for an example. He's fully back on the park. Hugo Ralsmith, and all those kinds of players who we've desperately missed, essentially.
Yeah.
Um,
All right, now moving on to St Kilda, and the big money team, looks to be fresh and polished. The only injury concern really is Max King,
which
who is always an injury concern. Unfortunately, he hasn't played since round 16, 2024.
yeah,
Recurrent knees, multiple surgeries. He'll take a while to get back into the swing of things anyway. So really, you're seeing him coming back in full force around halfway during the season. They'll probably work him in a bit more. But aside from that, Tom DeKoning and Jack Silvani had small issues. But otherwise, most are expected to play in their initial slate of games, which again, pretty mixed bag, but a couple of really winnable ones.
yeah.
Facing Collingwood round 1.
Mm-hmm.
Melbourne would be a good test. Round 0. Melbourne round 1 will be a good test. GWS probably winnable considering their injuries. And then the Lions into Port Adelaide. So really a couple of really big games, but nothing too far out of reach for the Saints.
No, especially as as long as a lot of the team stays healthy, pretty much from throughout the preseason games, I genuinely think that they could have a fair shot at coming out on top in the early season.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I never trust the Saints all that
much.
No,
it's really hard to trust the Saints. But they're in a good position to kind of put themselves in an even better position right now.
At least we'll see where they're at the very least.
Yeah, exactly. All right, jumping over to the Swans. Tom Papley, Callum Mills, and Isaac Heaney will all be fit for the start of the season, even though their workloads have been managed very differently due to their injuries. Papley with a calf, Mills with a hamstring, and Heaney also with a hamstring. Harry Cunningham and draftee Jevon Filippo will both miss the opening rounds due to quad injuries, which is roughly, let's just say, 3 to 7 weeks in total, with like a 2-week gap in between is roughly their time periods. Whilst Taylor Adams is still dealing with an Achilles issues. Draftee Max King, the other Max King in the league, is also injured. He has a back issue, so will miss the first 6 months. Whilst Taylor Adams, Joel Amati, why is... Oh, okay, no, I see why. Whilst Taylor Adams, Joel Amati, and Brodie Grundy have also suffered concussions and have been in the concussions protocol during preseason training.
Yeah, so again, a bit of a mixed bag for them. Again, nothing they'll be too changing the team structures, but obviously the big names, being Papley, Mills, and Heaney, they'll be concerned over having even just a bit of injury cloud over them. We'll definitely talk about that. Yeah, I think the Sydney episode would have come out by now. Maybe it's next. But
No,
yeah, we talked about that a bit.
The one after.
Yeah. Well, we will talk about that a bit. Anyway, so they've got Carlton, Brisbane, Hawthorn, West Coast, and Gold Coast to open the season. So, as I said, a couple of softer games, but a fairly tough one to start the season. Yeah,
it's definitely
might affect them, but yeah.
All
right.
Out west.
Going on a West Coast. Yeah, they have a few injury concerns, especially from the intra-club match. Jack Graham and Tom Gross sent to scans on hamstring injuries, whilst Liam Duggan, who was knocked out by Tom Gross, it was a very stupid bump for a preseason game, was assessed. I'm not sure if he was officially in concussion, but there's no further news, so we can hope not. Brady Hoff, Bailey Williams, that's the winger, Bailey Williams, Elijah Hewitt, and Tryler Young are all working their way back from the respective injuries, while Brendan Starcevich was ruled out of Origin due to knee issues, but should play the practice matches. Draftee Sam Allen will miss a start of the year as he rehabs an ACL tear, which they knew when they picked him up, while Jack Hutchinson is no guarantee to feature in any of the preseason matches whilst undergoing an ankle surgery in December. And if we look at the opening games for West Coast, as I said, they've got a bit of a mixed bag. Open it up in round 1 against the Gold Coast Suns, but then get slightly easier with North and Port Adelaide before heading off to Sydney at Optus, and then facing Geelong in the gather round. So again, couple of chances for an early win, but yeah, they'll be finding their feet, I would imagine.
Yeah, I assume like because it's West Coast, they're just West Coast. And we'll talk about this when we get around to the preseason episode as well. Like they still have a long way to go in terms of like being competitive. A lot of obviously these injuries aren't helpful at all. You want a full. I want West Coast to have a full healthy list. Going into especially going into the later part of the season. But just to start, yeah, it's definitely going to be touch and go for them. We'll get to test a little bit more of their depth in some areas, but otherwise, hopefully, they'll have at least some sort of competitiveness about them going into the first couple of rounds.
Yeah, you just want them to see. You want to see a bit more evenness in the overall contest, which they just didn't have, especially in the tail end of last year.
All right, jumping over to our final team on the list, and it's the Western Bulldogs. Cody Wayman is still struggling with his injuries, having not played a game since the 2024 elimination final. They're hoping that he is on track to play sometime this season. He's back running, which is good because it's been his kneecaps that have been the issues. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he'll get back. He'll get back on the park in no time. Former number 6 pick Riley Sanders strained both of his hamstrings over the summer, which has limited his training. But hopefully should be right to go a little bit early on in the season. Whilst Riley Garcia is out for an extended period with his own hamstring injury, and obviously James Harms has retired, so they have, so they are a downer player essentially for the time being until like the mid-season draft comes around.
Nah, because I can just sign it on the SSP since it's
yeah,
preseason.
that's true. That is true. The SSP is still going.
Yeah. I don't think it closes until the first week of March. Memory.
Yeah, that is correct, I think.
But yeah, the Bulldogs, because they extended the AFL extended it. Yeah, so it'll just go a bit longer. But Bulldogs have a tough schedule coming up. They open with the Lions at the Gabba. I'll be around. Unfortunately, I didn't have a ticket because I got fooled by opening round shenanigans. I thought the tickets were released. Well, I read one as like the opening round, so apparently they released a month, and I wasn't able to I get a ticket for that one, which is a bit disappointing. But then they got GWS, Adelaide, Essendon, which is a slight reprieve, and then into Hawthorn. And even after that is the Cats. So really, really tough start for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and this is the team that didn't even make the top, didn't technically make the top 8 last season. So and yet they still get a dangerous run.
Yeah, well, I said I'm not sure what their double headers are like. I can't remember which teams play which teams twice. But looking at this, they at least play Hawthorn and Sydney twice. So yeah, as I said, it's just going to be a tough start. But at least, unlike last year, they'll have their full team, which might, notch a couple of more wins needed to re-enter the final series.
Yeah. Provided most of their lists can stay consistently healthy, we know they've got the players to do it. Well, again, we'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to the preseason analysis episode for them. But like this team could still genuinely go a long way and punch way above where they've currently been sitting. So hopefully we get to see that a little bit more in 2026. But that does also bring us to the end of this little recap catch up kind of episode. We were umming and ahhing about whether we wanted to kind of do this post finishing the analysis series, or if we wanted to just kind of just slot it in because of the Origin match. I'm really glad we did it now, actually, because talking about the Origin match was actually a lot of fun. I will definitely try and watch it. I'm sorry I haven't had the time, but it is on the list. We'll get around to it. But yes, thank you also so much for liking, commenting, subscribing, and just coming to hang out with us in this episode. The next episode will be back into the preseason analysis series with St Kilda. So that's going to be very interesting. That'll come out on
St Kilda would have been...
No, it's after.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Sydney.
No, it's St Kilda then Sydney.
Is it? Whatever.
So this is coming. This is coming out on a Sunday. St Kilda will be out on the Tuesday after, if that's helpful.
Oh yeah, because we've got Richmond to go.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I get you now.
So stay tuned for that. And hopefully we will see you all very, very soon. We're nearing the end of the series and we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming. So until then, take care.